Hey guys, it's Bree. Happy Tuesday, and I'm here with a review. So this has kind of been a crazy week. I'm moving on Saturday and trying to get everything in boxes, and then this weekend I had to spend time with my brother because he needed someone to take him to get his wisdom teeth out. But I did manage to finish the Split World series by Emma Newman. For those of you who haven't heard of it, the Split World series is composed of 3 books and a bunch of short stories. I've only read the books. The short stories are like an email kind of thing that Emma Newman does, where she's writing a new story for every day in a year and sending them out to anybody who signs up for her free subscription. The first book is Between Two Thorns. Then you've got Any Other Name. And the last one is All Is Fair. These books take place in the Split Worlds, which is a kind of a fantasy version of our world. What happens is there are the Fae, and then there's the human realm. And the Split Worlds is kind of navigating those two. It takes place in kind of contemporary times. The Fae Touch world, which is the world that is occupied by the human servants of the Fae, is still very much a more classical Victorian kind of Civil War era type feel to it. The women are expected to stay home and take care of the children, while the men do kind of manly, noble things. They wear sabers and, I don't know, have balls and whatever. Kathy, who's the main character, is from the Fae Touch Society. And she has escaped into the human realm, where she has set herself up at university. She's starting to establish her life and really beginning to enjoy the freedoms that modern society has. And then her family finds her. She's been on the run for 3 years, and they finally track her down, bring her back to the Fae Touch Society, and marry her off as quickly as possible to minimize the scandal of her running away. So Kathy, understandably, is very upset by this, but that's not the only thing she has to deal with. There's a group of people called the Arbiters, and they're essentially the Border Patrol officers that keep the Fae-touched people out of the mundane or human world. And one of the Arbiters, Max, has discovered that his entire chapter, so all of the Arbiters that he works with, have been killed. He's trying to track down the source of this corruption and the source of the killing that has really led to a lot of chaotic things going on in the human world. The only person he can rely on in the Fae Touch Society, of course, is Kathy, because she's the only one who's really left for any extended period of time and really embraced the human world in the last couple hundred years. So she's got all sorts of things kind of going on in her life. She's trying to please the Fae that are the kind of the patrons of her family, and she's of course caught their eye because she managed to escape for 3 whole years without even the Fae being able to find her. So there are a couple of things that I really liked about these books. First of all, you should understand that they really go together. The plot extends and really is connected throughout the 3. It's not like any of them ends with a big cliffhanger, but they all end kind of unresolved, and those unresolved issues are picked up in the next book. But what I did like about these books is that there's a real sense of growth in the characters. When we begin, Kathy drove me nuts the whole time. Throughout the full first book, and really for the better part of the second, she's very upset about having to be dragged back to this this patronizing society where men are in charge and women don't get a say in anything. And instead of being kind of proactive about it and saying, hey, I'm not going to tolerate this, here's how I can take active steps to change the society around me for the good of everyone, she sits and kind of throws herself a pity party, and she takes her anger out on her new husband, Will, even though he doesn't really do anything to deserve it, and goes really out of his way to show her that he's willing to kind of be a progressive man who allows her to do what she wants. But by the end, after kind of a really big punch to the face verbally from her sister-in-law who says, hey, we don't like this either. You know, you're not being brave or special by wanting to leave. Kathy starts to be very proactive, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching her kind of start to feel responsibility for the society that she's brought up in, feel like she can take a bad situation and make changes for the better for everyone, and I really enjoyed seeing that change. Another thing that I liked was that Kathy and Will's relationship is in no way insta-love. They're married off, and neither is really happy about it. Kathy, of course, in particular, is very vocal. But over the course of the 3 books, they really learn how each other thinks and the kind of things that they want to see changed. And it feels like they really start to embrace being partners in enacting change. And I thought that that was a really cool thing to see. It was really neat to see them learn to trust one another and learn to respect one another as equals. And it's just much more satisfying, I think, than, 100 pages in and I love you kind of stuff. And much more realistic for their situation. That being said, I did have some problems. There were some points in the book that really just kind of seemed like Newman was putting her characters into difficult situations just to put them into difficult situations. Some of the moral problems that they get into are really, really difficult, and Newman never really addresses some of the big ones that I had problems with. For instance, there's a lot of pressure from the Fae for Kathy and Will to start having children and kind of be the perfect married couple. And in trying to get them off of their back, Will does some pretty sketchy stuff. And Kathy so far hasn't found out about it. I don't know if there's going to be a 4th book. If there is, I would hope, at the very least, that that gets addressed. I don't want to say too much about it. But I really, it tainted my opinion of him. Even though the whole book, I was like, I like this guy. He's kind of a good guy. And then he does this thing, and I'm like, but I like you. Please don't do that bad thing. And now that you've done that bad thing, how can I like you, but I still like you? You know what I mean. You know what I mean. I really thought that there's a great sense of adventure, and that Newman does a good job of tying the worlds together. I think that also definitely improves throughout the book series. The first book in particular, it just kind of felt like there's a really artificial division, and why is this society so backwards? But Newman does a good job of addressing it and really starting to balance out the kind of more traditional society that is the Fae Touch society with our world. So overall, I'd give these books a 4 out of 5, especially as they go along, my ratings improved. You can kind of see that if you look at my Goodreads ratings. I thought that they were really fun, kind of light reads for summer, really enjoyable, quick reads. I read them, I think, in all of 7 days. That's all it took me to finish all 3. To just give you an example of the length, the shortest one I think is 397 pages, and the longest one is 408. As always, please leave your comments below. I'd love to talk to you about what you thought about this series. All of my information is in the down bar below. Feel free to kind of internet stalk me there, and I will talk to you guys on Friday with my wrap up. Bye!